Alright everyone, welcome back. Just doing a quick little update here on Dorian. Latest update has it as a Cat 1, 90 mile per hour winds, 958 millibars, and moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Now a lot of people will think that, hey, this thing is just a little Cat 1. Sorry, my channel's having an issue here. Get this on the right thing here. There we go. Sorry about that. But this is just a little Cat 1, 90 mile per hour. Not going to be a bad storm, but you can see this is pretty potent storm. Morehead City is getting absolutely hammered right now. Tons of rain. Looks like there's going to be a landfall. Maybe the western edge of the hurricane is going to brush up against Morehead City and Beaufort area right here. It is moving off to the northeast like this, so it may make an actual landfall. We'll have to see. Again, it's a Cat 1, 90 mile per hour winds, 958 millibars, moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. So very strong storm still. A lot of storm surge going on. Once it gets past like these areas, you can see the flow is going offshore now, so that's going to help to empty things out over here, and the storm surge will start reducing, but still heavy rains. See, this northwest quadrant here of the storm is pretty strong. It's going to be potent it in there. So if you're in this area, just hang on. It's going to be rocking and rolling for the next several hours. Going to be some lowland flooding in isolated spots. You have all that storm surge still in there, plus all the rain is just going to fill up all the rivers and everything. So feel free, if you have any questions, just go ahead and type them in the comments and I'll answer them the best I can. But again, this is a Cat 1 hurricane, 90 mile per hour, 958 millibars, moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. So it's going to eject out of the area more quickly than it was when it was in the Bahamas. So we're not going to see this thing stick around for 10-12 hours or anything. This will be out of here in the next probably 3-4 hours. Wilmington's going to start clearing up soon. Morehead City, you're going to take pretty much a direct hit from this thing, and it's going to be pretty nasty in there. We'll take a wider look. Another thing to not forget about with this storm is the tornado threat. It's quite a tornado threat going on right now. They've seen several tornadoes, several tornado warnings and watches, so it's a very quick spin up of these tornadoes. They're going to come, they're going to be rain wrapped, you're not going to see them. Obviously it's dark, so you need to be real vigilant right now if you're over in this area, because we've already seen some damage in the North Carolina area and South Carolina, from these tornadoes just spinning up out of nowhere and causing the damage. So if you're in that area, be super careful. Here's an overall view of the storm. You can see it ejecting off to the northeast, but you can see still some real strong storms here on the southeast side of the storm that are going to swing on in. So these areas up in here into North Carolina, Virginia area, you're going to get this heavy rain come on. Even if you don't get the eye passing through your area, you're going to get a lot of rain. Storm surge is going on right now. You're going to get a lot of wind, and so with the saturated ground, the trees are just going to come down. So be real careful. Again, if you're in that area, hopefully most of the people are gone and evacuated. They're not going to have to deal with any wind or storm surge or any flooding, anything like that, but it's going to be rocking and rolling in this place all night. We'll take an overall look at the tropics. There you see Dorian. Some storms firing over South America. Here there's a couple different areas of interest. Take a look at the 5-day forecast for these areas. This one's headed off to the northeast. Just a 10% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. This one has the same 10% chance, but it is moving off to the northwest. We'll see where this one ends up. Hopefully it'll just get caught up in the high and it'll push it over off to the northeast. Gabriel, it's moving at the northwest, 14 miles per hour. I'd have to think it's going to get caught up in whatever is pushing this off to the northeast. So hopefully this one will curve and we won't have to worry about it anywhere in the U.S., which it shouldn't. This is the big one, 60% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. You can see it's headed almost straight west. This 15 degrees north area to 25 degrees north area is a real good area for tropical formation. We're just past the peak of hurricane season, so it's still real active, as you see here. So this thing could develop and it could head over into the U.S. If it stays low, it might go into the Gulf. It may not, it may just head straight west into Mexico. Or it may also turn up and take a path that Dorian took. If it takes a path that Dorian takes, that would be absolutely horrible for the Bahamas, obviously. But hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully it'll either stay south or it'll follow past this one and eject off to the northeast. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that one and see what happens with it. But we could again be looking at another pretty strong hurricane in the Atlantic, and we'll have to watch where it heads. So again, here's the latest radar picture. Looks like it's about to make a landfall here into this area. Let me zoom in here. And we'll see. I see Newport. This is Morehead City right here. I mean, they're just getting hammered right now. There's going to be strong winds, obviously strong wind, rain. There's going to be some storm surge. You see the little inlets here. These tons of flooding. These little barrier islands. I'm sure they're underwater, getting pretty big storm surge right now, as well as the heavy rains and the winds. You know, this is, even though it's a Cat 1, it still has winds of 90 miles per hour. So you could be seeing gusts 70, 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour, depending on how close this thing gets to Morehead City. Like I say, it looks like it's right over it right now. And if you guys have any questions, just type them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them for you. But this is a real bad situation for the people living in this area. Hopefully most of the people have evacuated. Another thing to look at is there's quite the tornado threat going on in these areas because of these strong lines of showers coming in. You can see these oranges and reds. It's really heavy precipitation. There's a lot of spin in the atmosphere right now with this tropical system moving in, so gotta watch out for these tornadoes. They're going to be rain wrapped. It's dark out obviously right now, so you're not going to see them coming. So gotta be real careful in this area and keep a close watch out. Hopefully everyone gets through this. The good thing is it's speeding up northeast of 15 miles per hour. If we go over here and take a look, we can say it's been speeding up. It was at 3 UTC, it was at 13 miles per hour, and then you see 2 hours later sped up to 15. It's still at 15. But obviously it's finding the hole between the two high pressures, one over the central U.S. and one, let's go to this graph. Got a high pressure over here, you got a high pressure basically about over in here. So this Dorian is finding the hole basically between the two high pressure systems, and that's what's causing it to move off to the northeast. Something that's really rare is that you have tornado warnings up here in Nova Scotia, as well as up in here. So this thing is going to just pass along the eastern seaboard and affect these areas. It will be moving faster and it won't be as strong of a hurricane, obviously. By the time it gets in there shouldn't be any intensification here off the east coast. It may keep its strength. You know, you have the waters in there, so we'll have to see what happens with it there, but I can't imagine if it does do anything. It shouldn't be strengthening wise, it should just be maintaining. But yeah, it's gonna make this landfall here. You can see right about now it's making landfall right now in this this Morehead City area. So the conditions there are gonna have to be just terrible right now. Heavy bands of rain, winds. It'll be interesting to see what the wind speeds are once this thing goes through. We can get some readings for the various wind speeds. I suspect they'll have gusts over 70, maybe even 80 miles per hour. It won't be sustained though. Storm surge is pretty intense here right now. It's at the worst part. The good news is though is it is moving pretty fast. So once they get to the south side of the storm, that will help that storm surge go back out to the ocean. But again, they still have to get through all this as it goes through, and it's just going to keep up with the heavy wind and rain for a while. And you're going to see double-digit rainfall totals in this area most likely. See some lowland flooding. A lot of trees will probably be down. And again, tornado threat is pretty high right now. So you have to be super careful if you're in this area. Hopefully most people have evacuated. We have seen a lot of tornadoes in the South Carolina area as well as a little bit in North Carolina. So just got to keep an eye on that. Hopefully nothing bad happens with that, but when you get these landfalling tropical systems like this, you get a lot of spin in the atmosphere, and that just really increases the tornado threat. They're not long track tornadoes like you see in the Midwest. There'll probably be some F1s and whatnot, but they will still do some damage. You know, bring trees down, could drop them on a house. Obviously, that's a dangerous situation. Another thing is people don't want to be driving over roads right now that are water covered. You get power lines down, you can't see them, drive right into them. We've also seen a situation where power lines have been hit by debris and it caused a fire at a house, burnt the house down. So there's just a lot of different ways to get damage in these storms, as people know. So that's why they ask you to evacuate, and that's why they turn the contraflow, put all the lanes of the highway going one way to the west, got everyone out of these towns, especially right up against the coast. If you zoom in here, you can see there's some barrier islands in here, and I gotta think the conditions there just have to be absolutely horrible. Lots of storm surge, lots of rain, lots of wind, just intense flooding probably going on right now. You can see the heaviest bands going through, and that eye is right there. It's I'm pretty sure they're going to call it a landfall or a partial landfall over in here to the east of Beaufort and Morehead City, sorry. It's just a bad time to be anywhere over there. And as this goes by, if it stays where it is, it's going to stay in this band. As you see, this band is just going to stay over Morehead here for a little bit. It won't be anything long like we saw in the Bahamas, but man, if this thing was moving slower, it'd be a horrible situation for the East Coast here right now. So thank God it's moving at 15 miles an hour. It's still not real quick, but it's obviously quicker than 1 to 5 mile an hour like they were seeing in the Bahamas. And obviously it's not a Cat 5 with 185 mile an hour winds and 220 mile an hour wind gusts. It's just a Cat 1 with 90 mile per hour winds, which if you've ever been in 90 mile per hour winds, you know, you can't really stand in that. That's about the limit. I've been in an area here where I live that gets real windy, and I've been in over 100 mile an hour winds, and you just can't stand. It's real dangerous. It'll sweep you off your feet and push you around. So anyhow, it's a real dangerous area. I imagine we're going to see some pretty decent damage coming out of here once morning comes. Looks like they're getting gusts to about 51 in Morehead City right now, based on what the Weather Channel is saying. And the eye wall, as you can see, is just brushing up against. You know, and even if the eye itself doesn't go over Morehead City, it still doesn't matter because they're getting the eye wall, which is the tense part of the hurricane. So, you know, it's bad conditions there right now. It's if you're a storm chaser, you'd love to be there, but if you're anyone else, you don't want to be there right now. So, tornado threat's still going to be real high in the areas to the north here. As we pan out and take a bigger look at this system, you can see just how big of a hurricane it is. It's pretty far north up into Virginia Beach is getting hit right now with the outer bands of Dorian. And that's the thing that's really going to affect these areas for flooding, is the eye is still a ways away, but you can see they're getting all these heavy bands of showers. Plus they're getting the storm surge because it's pushing the water in. It's pushing it to the northwest, which is pushing it in all these bays and filling up the rivers because the rivers can't drain because the water it's going the wrong way. So that, coupled with the rain and the continued storm surge, it's just going to make the situation up there worse. So not a good situation for these areas right now. I imagine the tornado threat's pretty high up in here too with these intense showers. If we zoom in up there, we can take a quick look and see just how intense they are. Yeah, you can see there's some intense cells in here. They're getting heavy rain. Might be some tornado warnings in this area as well. Lots of rotation with these hurricanes, even if they don't hit land. Still is a lot of tornado threats. These barrier isles, we'll see how much damage they take. And when you get the storm surge, you know, with it comes the beach erosion. So I don't know, there's a lot of water, a lot of different bays sitting in here. So that's just going to flow right in here and flood these areas around there. You get the heavy rain, you get that storm surge, and you're getting that onshore flow. I don't know where they're at in their tide cycle. I think they're headed to a low tide right now, so they may miss the bullet there. But yeah, still a pretty dangerous situation. So let's zoom in. I just want to see if this thing is actually going over land. And it's pretty dang close. You can see the eye right there. I think they're going to call a landfall around in here. I'd be surprised if they didn't. It looks like that just northwest corner of the eye is making a landfall right in here near Morehead City. Just the way the land is, it just sticks out right there. So if we go back over here, let me get that off there for you. But you can see, yeah, it's just right up against that, and obviously the land jets out. Let's go back over to the radar here. I want to look at one other thing. Alright, sorry about that. So let's see this exact path here, and we'll be able to see just how it's moving. Because it's gonna, the Kitty Hawk area. If it continues to go northeast, though, it may be far enough away from them to where it won't make a landfall over there. But again, these areas just stick out so much. It's going to be interesting to see just how it goes. Hopefully they'll dodge the bullet over there, though. But you can see it's just real close to the coast here. So again, if you're just joining us, obviously Hurricane Dorian here. 90 mile per hour winds, 958 millibars, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Everyone sees it as a Cat 1. They don't think it can do that much damage, but with a lot of rain, storm surge, you can do a lot of damage. Even though it's a Cat 1, I mean, even if you don't get the 90 per hour gusts, you get even 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts. With all the saturated soil, all the trees obviously have leaves on them. We're still not to fall yet, so it makes those trees act as a parachute, and it can really blow things over and do a lot of damage, getting on power lines and cars and houses. So got to be real careful. For those of you just joining us, let's take a look at the tropics for you here. Get this pulled up. The site's kind of slow to load sometimes. Let's go over to the 5-day graphic. So what this shows you is all the areas of interest in the tropics right now. Obviously there's Dorian off the east coast of the Carolinas. You have this disturbance here. It's going to move off to the northeast. Not going to be a problem for the U.S. This one only has a 10% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days. It's moving off to the northwest. But they'll have to watch it. They don't really think there's much of a chance. Obviously, you see the 5 days, 10% chance of the next week, basically. So probably not going to develop. Gabriel's moving off to the northwest here. See 40 mile per hour winds, 1,004 millibars, and moving northwest at 14 miles an hour. So it's moving pretty well. But again, it's probably going to get caught up in what's steering this one. We'll have to see if it goes, if it goes off, gets caught up and moves off to the northeast. This is the big one. 60% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days. Like I said earlier, it's moving straight west. This one is in the prime land, 15 north to 25 north. This is pretty prime land. A lot of warm water in here still. We're just past the peak of hurricane season, so it's still a real good time for these things to develop and hit. So obviously it could stay low and go into Mexico, or it could get up into the Gulf, or Hopefully it does not take the same general path as Dorian and hit the Bahamas again, because that would just take a bad situation and make it worse. You know, by the time this would be on their doorstep, they'd still be receiving aid from Dorian. So we'll hope it stays away from them. That's the last thing they need. That place is just, it's basically just destroyed. It's horrible down there. I think 35 people had died over last check. Here's a satellite infrared view of what's going on in the tropics here. And so you can see this is the main one they're watching right now. That's Gabriel over there. This one's going to dissipate. This one's going to head off to the northeast. Doesn't have much chance of development. And this is the other one with the 10% chance of development. Now, if we sort of look at the upper level winds here, you can kind of watch the clouds. This one's being pushed down, so the high pressure must be somewhere over here. Here now, excuse me. Pushing this one, and then it's going to push it off to the northeast, they're thinking. So, and then there's Dorian. So let's go look back at Dorian on the radar here. Let's see if it's making landfall. That's pretty dang close. That is pretty dang close to a landfall. I mean, it's definitely hitting that barrier island. I would not like to be out there tonight. Yeah, that eye is right there. Excuse me. So we'll have to see. Yeah, it looks like North Carolina's already had over a foot of rain. Obviously, areas along the coast. So I imagine you're going to be seeing a lot more double-digit totals coming out of this area as Dorian moves through. It's just constant heavy rain. So, and even areas, if we go back out here a little bit, you know, even these areas, you know, they're obviously not getting the high winds, but they had tornado threats earlier. But they're still getting heavy rain, even if they're not in the yellows. I mean, this dark green it's not light rain by any means, and it's just going to train over them for a while until this thing gets out of the way. So they're not off the hook yet. So, and they're going to get some, there's going to be some lowland flooding in these areas. So it's going to be a bad situation. Further up the coast you go into Virginia, you see just a lot of rain. These are the outer bands of Dorian, hammering them for a while now, and they're going to get some flooding because they still have to go through the brunt of Dorian. They're just now receiving those outer bands and have been for a little while, I guess you should say. But there's going to be some flooding up in there. And if we go back down to Dorian here, let's see. It's pretty much a landfall. It's very slight. They might. It depends. I don't know what the National Hurricane Center is going to say about this, but that western eyewall edge is just about going to go over Morehead City here. Just a little, maybe 10 miles from it right here. We'll see. This is the edge. We'll see how it does. Obviously the edge isn't real defined, and I don't know their exact criteria for determining a landfall. It's obviously easier in some areas than others, or some storms than others. But with this thing brushing the coast like this, again, if you're just joining, this is tropical or Hurricane Dorian, Cat 1, 90 mile per hour, 958 millibars, and moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. So it's ejecting out of the area quicker than it has been. But it's still going to sit here and spin for a little while. You're going to get that storm surge, you're going to get the wind, the heavy rain. There's a tornado threat going on. Just got to keep a close eye on it if you're in this area, basically. I also wanted to mention in my description I have links for the evacuation in the Carolinas and Virginia. I also have information for the FEMA app if you are evacuating. I know it's late in the game, but some people, maybe they didn't have a chance to evacuate until now for whatever reason. So it's better to evacuate now than to wait. I also have some information in there if you want to donate to Red Cross. You can go to their website. You can also just text and donate $10 for Hurricane Dorian relief. And there's obviously tons of other ways to donate as well. So, but I just wanted to include that stuff in there for people to have. So the radar did just update, and it's going to be a very close call for. Looks like Morehead City's going to miss a direct landfall, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't really matter. They're in that eye wall, and they're getting hammered right now. So lots of wind, lots of heavy rain, the storm surge, the beach erosion. They have all that saturated ground. You're going to see trees down. You're going to see some destruction. And again, there's going to be tornadoes in this area, so got to be real careful. I wasn't planning on live streaming this long, but I just want to wait and see if this thing actually makes a landfall or not. The landfall may be more up in here. I'll be real interested to see what the National Hurricane Center says as far as a landfall. If they declare it as one or not. It may not be enough of the eye to consider a landfall. We should know here in the next 5 minutes or so if this thing is going to. And again, this is just radar. It doesn't. It's not always exact down to the mile. So they have their system, they have their criteria, they have their ways of checking whether or not the eye has made a landfall. I don't know if how much of the eye has to go ashore in order for it to be considered a landfall. I don't know if it's just a brush or if they have to have the whole eye wall or half the eye wall, quarter of the eye wall. I don't know what their criteria is, so we'll have to wait to see. I know we'll find out in the morning for sure, but they may declare something tonight as well after this gets out of the way. So we'll see. We'll have to wait for that. But just a dangerous time right now for this area. So let's zoom out, take a little wider view here real quick. Huge tornado threat in this area as well. There's going to be short track tornadoes, not like you see in the Midwest, the big F5s that track for miles and miles. There's going to be short track, short-lived tornadoes, probably some F1s that are going to spin up, and even though it's an F1, that can still do a lot of damage, can still take lives, damage property. So you got to stay vigilant. Obviously, it's dark. These are also going to be rain wrapped. You're not going to know they're coming. They're just going to pop up and all of a sudden start destroying things. So if you're in this area, don't go to sleep. Keep tuned to excuse me. Keep tuned to some sort of weather app or website, or turn your TV on, or the best thing would be to have already been out of there. But if you had to stay for whatever reason, just keep a close eye on what's going on here. Let's go over here and look at the satellite view of it. Again, you can see the last couple frames on that west side of the eye. It just really fired up there, and then you got all this to go through as well. Here's an overview of the tropics again. Just a quick look to see what's going on, some different areas. This one shouldn't impact the U.S. This one, they don't think there's going to be much of a intensity anytime soon. Gabriel, same kind of deal. But Gabriel's going off to the northwest. We'll have to see where that ends up. This is the big one. So there's a flash flood warning, of course, for Moore City right now. Not much of a surprise there. They're getting gusts to 51 in Morehead City. But this one's the one that's looking at the most chance for development, so we'll have to see what happens to that one. Let's go back to the radar here. I tell you, it's going to be super close. Real close on this eye wall here. Be real interested to see what they do for the landfall. They consider it one or not. Let's see what's straight northeast here. Yeah, it's probably going to go right in between these barrier islands. Looks like there's a highway going out there. This area here might have a landfall as well, because it's headed that. Oops, sorry, it's headed that general direction. As soon as this updates, we'll see the latest. But man, I mean, they're showing things on the Weather Channel right now where it's just crazy. This poor guy standing out there. I mean, I'd like to go through a hurricane. I just like to be a storm chaser. I was in Katrina after, or I'm sorry, I was in New Orleans after Katrina, and man, the devastation was just incredible. Not in a good way, but just crazy. So we'll see real quick here what this is going to do. I mean, it's looking like that's, I don't know. I don't want to say that's landfall again because I don't know the criteria for a landfall. But man, this guy on the Weather Channel right now is getting hammered. So if anyone's, you know, if you're watching right now, turn on the Weather Channel. This is crazy. But yes, this is very close. I mean, this is just a lot of rain. Still going through the rain in Morehead City, just getting hammered. I wonder what the rainfall rates are right now. That would be interesting to see. Looks like Charleston's gusting to almost 70 miles an hour. So they're still getting a lot of wind. The good news is once it passes, the winds shift and will go offshore, help to drain some of that water out of the cities, and help that flooding go down even quicker. Although they're still going to have the heavy rain, so it's not like it's just all of a sudden going to dump all the water out and the water's going to recede. Again, tornado threats are a big thing right now. There's a lot of tornadoes that have happened today, and it's still ongoing. These are going to be quick tornadoes, pop-up tornadoes, F1s, not the long track tornadoes, so at least that's a good part, but again, you won't see it coming. I mean, it's just going to be rain wrapped and it's just going to pop up. Yeah, this is pretty intense right now. Anyone along this area, I hope there's no one on these barrier islands. With the highway going there, that tells me it's probably decently populated, and I really hope no one's out there. That's just asking for trouble. So we'll have to see in the morning what kind of damage was done, but I'd have to think with the storm surge, I don't know how high these islands are, but man, I'm sure they're going to take a lot of beach erosion, and the storm surge is going to be pretty high out there. I don't know if it'll cover the little barrier islands completely, but again, these look pretty small, so we'll have to see what the daylight shows and people can get out there and start seeing what's going on. So you can see that eye wall starting to come right here into this area, or the eye itself, I should say. So yeah, just updated again. I don't know, they might call landfall over in here. We'll see. It's getting pretty close. There's kind of a more direct view of the eye itself. The eye wall is pretty much at the edge here of these heavy showers. You can see a little bit of clearing. It's obviously a ragged eye right now, but you can kind of see the general idea here where the eye wall is. This thing's a little jumpy. I don't know why. It just updated and slowed down, so I don't know. But we can get a general idea here. Oh man, I was trying to pause it on that last frame there. So you can see this is the eye wall here. It might not make it. It might just stay offshore just enough to not be considered a landfall. Definitely went over these islands right now. All this heavy rain, you can see all these little bays in here. Lots of flooding probably around these lowland flooding in all these areas. This bay right here is getting hammered. It's full of water and just pushing a lot of water back. So let's loop this again, see if it runs better. And it's still a little choppy. It's going to be close. Looks like it's not going to make a landfall in Morehead City or Beaufort. Real close though. I mean, it's about as close as you can get without a landfall, really, in Beaufort. I'm just wondering if the eye is going to go over whatever cities are over here or little towns. We'll have to see. And then again, as you go further up the coast, we'll go to the wide view here, further up the coast into here, we'll see. We'll see if it makes a landfall in there. But man, it's right there. Looks like it is just going to stay off the coast. So in Morehead City, we'll see how long it lasts in that rain band, but you can see it's just for about almost an hour now. They've been in that real heavy stuff, and I don't know what the rainfall rates is. I don't even want to guess, but whatever they are, they're got to be pretty intense, and that's going to cause flooding quick. So hopefully they don't get too bad of flooding, but can't be a good situation, I can tell you that. So we'll see what this eye is going to do here. See if it's going to go over right here. This is what I'm watching. I'm wondering if it's going to go over here. I mean, you can see the eye walls is like right about here, right there. So yeah, it might just go right over. I haven't seen anything saying that they're calling for a landfall yet, so my guess is nothing yet. So we'll see. Man, this poor guy on the Weather Channel is getting hammered. It's in Morehead City. Yeah, they're under that heavy red right there, so that's about as heavy as you're gonna see on the radar. for rain, you know. It's just so intense. Again, the tornado threat's pretty high in this area, so if you're over here, keep a very watchful eye out. I hope you have some sort of weather app or something like that that updates you. Sorry about that, I don't know what happened there. Gosh, that eye is so close to making a landfall. Yeah, that edge is right here, basically. May stay off the coast. I mean, not that it really matters, honestly, because, you know, they're saying the center of Dorian's eye wall is 25 miles from Morehead City. So, that's probably a direct line like this. Not far. But you're still getting the eye wall stuff, so that's really all that matters. You know, you're still going to have to go through the whole western section of the hurricane, which is what they're doing. So they're about halfway through right now, because the hurricane's just about to their direct east. We'll be here in the next, say, 10 minutes or something, but it's a lot of rain and water and storm surge and coastal flooding and just beach erosion and tornadoes and wind and trees down. I mean, it's just a horrible situation. Hopefully there'll be no major damage, no lives lost. Those are the things you always hate to see with storms like these, but I think the damage is pretty much inevitable right now. Just with what I'm seeing on radar here and the live shots and yeah. Yeah. 87 mile an hour wind gust report. There's an 80. South Carolina's getting hammered. It's definitely a lot of wind with this thing. This is rocking and rolling, definitely. So we'll see. This is going to be awfully close. Next couple of minutes, we should see what this western eye wall is going to do. Pass over land here or not. It's going to be real close. But those barrier islands are in the eye of the hurricane right now, so the rain may have stopped for a quick second before it packed, you know, just picks back up again out of nowhere as the backside of the hurricane comes through. And then they're going to get a heavy band again. I mean, they got it once and then they're going to get it again. And it looks like Morehead City is going to pretty much stay in it until this thing swings off further north. They're just in the right spot, as you can see, as it's curving around and moving. It's just staying right over them. Let's go up to the north here, see how things are shaping up. Yeah, it's getting hammered up in here again. So tornado threat is real high, so again, just keep a watchful eye out. But a dangerous situation for sure. Again, hopefully most of the people are gone. Hopefully there's no one out on these barrier islands. I know I wouldn't want to be out there. Haven't said anything about a landfall yet, but man, it's there. And again, the criteria from the National Hurricane Center. Ooh, there it comes. It's coming. It's like that eye wall is going to go right over that little part of the. I don't know exactly where this is, town-wise or city-wise or anything. It's going to be interesting to see what they say. It'll be interesting to know their criteria. But again, here's Hurricane Dorian, Cat 1, 90 mile per hour winds, 958 millibars. on the pressure and moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. It's going to eject out of the area. It's moving a lot faster than it has been in the Bahamas, but you know, we're seeing 80, 87 mile an hour wind gust was the most I've seen so far. So we will have to see what's going on. What the final numbers are tomorrow. I'm sure we'll see a lot of 60s, 70s, and 80s. Be interested to see what the highest wind gust is. I've seen 87, which that's pretty dang close to, you know, what the max wind sustained winds are in the eye of the hurricane. So I don't think we'll see gusts most over that 87, if anything. You can see that eye is about to pass right by this area. We'll see. I mean, technically the eye is over this little part right here, but who knows how technical they'll be about the eye wall and the actual eye for landfall. Yeah, this poor guy on TV is getting hammered. Look at this purplish red cell just stay right over that area for quite a few frames. It's like about a half an hour now it's been over that area, maybe. Yeah, so Morehead City's getting hammered right now for sure. But what they figured was going to happen once the track kind of got semi-defined and figured out. It went a little further west out of the Bahamas than they expected. A little closer to Florida than they expected, but it has stayed off the coast so far, which has allowed us to keep its strength, so it's not necessarily a good thing. It is a good thing that it lost a little, you know, it's not a Cat 5 going along the coast here. That would be absolutely horrible. You'd see, you know, 2 times the wind speed and the rainfall would be intense. The hurricane itself might not be as wide, but man, just terrible, terrible situation. Again, remember the tornado threat with this is very, very high, so got to keep a watchful eye out if you're in this area. You won't see these tornadoes coming. Obviously, it's nighttime, but it's rain wrapped as well, so you're not going to see it. So be real, real careful if you're in this area. You don't want to get caught up in a tornado. So yeah, it's just getting hammered there, and Morehead City still getting hammered. Just be curious to see what the National Hurricane Center says about a landfall or not. It's pretty dang close. See the eye going right over the tip of these barrier islands. And if you want to be technical, well, not yet. I was going to say the eye wall did go over this, but or the eye itself, but not yet. So we'll have to see. I'll have to see what happens here. See the clearing in the eye. Just a little bit. I mean, the eye's not real healthy. Obviously, most of the energy, as you see, let's look at the broader view. Let's see, this website's a little slow sometimes. You can go here and look. Not the greatest picture, but you can see most of the energy is on that northeast corner or quadrant of the storm. Let's let that load and we'll come back to it. Zoom out a little bit. You can't really see. See where most of the energy is right now. It's on the north and a little bit on the northeast side. Is this thing loaded? No, it has not. So we'll wait on that one to load. Let's zoom back in and see what we can see with this eye here. eye is just getting into a little bit of this area. Still may not be considered a landfall yet, I don't know. The eye wall, or the eye itself, is going to brush up against this eastern coast here, Carolinas. Again, if you need any information, in the description I have a bunch of information on evacuations. I have the FEMA app in there, so if you did evacuate, you can download that FEMA app. A lot of good information on there, as well as if you're looking to donate, I have the Red Cross information there. You can go to their website and donate. You can text and donate. I believe you text 90999 or whatever. You can donate $10. So just kind of a good way to help out. So we'll see. I would have to think in the morning for sure. We're going to know if they consider this a landfall. So much of the eye may need to go over an area to consider it a landfall. They might just consider this a brush. Might just say that I will brush some land here. But tons of flash flood warnings. Heavy rain in these areas for hours. As this thing goes on and moves off, it's just going to keep, as you see, these showers are just going to keep training over the same area. For Morehead City right now, it's just heavy, steady rain. And the rainfall rates per hour, I don't know, but they've got to be at least an inch plus, maybe 2 inches plus an hour. I'm not sure, but they've been under these heavy showers now for a while. Almost a couple hours. They've been under this heavy shower. You can kind of see the yellow start there. It's like about 3:17, so maybe a little less than 2 hours here. And it came and then it got steady. But it's going to stick there for a while. As you can see, the hurricane's just now going by. So yeah, that eye, it's staying up the coast. But it might make a landfall considering up in here. We'll have to see. The next spot I'd really be worried about is in through here. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Alright, so let's just recap for those of you just joining. This is Hurricane Dorian, Cat 1 hurricane. Obviously, we've been watching it for a while now. 90 mile per hour winds, 958 millibars on the pressure, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. This is the one that did all that damage in the Bahamas. Hit as a Cat 5, made 3 separate landfalls in the Bahamas. Max wind gust 220 miles per hour, which is just insane. That's like a tornado ripping through an area. So it sat there for 48 hours basically. Basically acted as a blender. It just went through there, storm surge and the winds just spun everything up and did a lot of damage. Here's the hurricane. The image is unavailable right now, so we'll refresh that page. But sorry about that. That web page does not like to load sometimes. So as you can see, this is the overall tropics, and you can see Dorian right here spinning off the Carolina coast. We got a couple other disturbances in the Atlantic and other waves coming off the coast of Africa, but it looks like it's dying a little bit, so may not turn into anything. Here's the 5-day outlook. You can see Dorian right there. This one's going to move off to the northeast, 10% chance, as it says, of development in the next 5 days. Here's Tropical Storm Gabriel. 40 mile per hour winds, 1,004 millibars, and moving northwest at 14 miles an hour. May get caught up in the same steering pattern as this one and head off to the northeast. Hopefully it'll stay away from the U.S. because we don't need anything else. This one, 10% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. It is heading off to the northeast. We'll see if it gets stuck in the flow around this high and again ejects off to the northeast. This is the worst one right here. 60% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days, so that's pretty high. They are, as you can see, predicting it to move basically due west. This is a primary for cyclone development, turning into a hurricane. Probably see this go to a tropical storm somewhere within here, and then maybe a Cat 1 hurricane by the time it gets over here. I don't know, we'll have to see. But if this thing stays low, obviously it could go into Mexico, could come through the Caribbean and go up and affect the southern U.S. Fingers crossed. The last thing we need is for it to take a similar path to Dorian and hit the Bahamas again. They're still recovering, obviously. There's a lot of damage there. All the relief efforts would be going on if this next one here decided to roll on through. So let's really hope that doesn't happen. That's the latest now. We'll check the radar one more time here as it refreshes. And let's see what the latest update is. So it's updated to the minute. Oops, sorry about that. So it's staying off that coast. I don't think they'll consider a landfall. But you can see those showers are just staying over the Morehead City area. I would have to think the flooding there is going to be pretty intense. Another thing, you see all the water in here. Now you'll get you got all the storm surge coming in here, all the water being pushed up. As this hurricane goes by, it's going to reverse that flow, and it's going to push this water into these areas along the coast, and it's going to be even more full than it was to begin with. So this is going to probably be some flooding here along the coast of this little bay. Well, they saw that in Hurricane Katrina with Lake Pontchartrain. Lake Pontchartrain, the hurricane was coming in and it pushed all the water in to the northern edge of the lake. Hurricane passes by, all that water that was pushed up against the northern side of the lake flew down to the southern side of the lake and flooded all those areas in there. Then of course the levees broke, all that water got trapped in there. I heard stories of when I was in New Orleans that I did refresh the page. Let's go over here to this one. But I heard stories of they closed the floodgates in certain areas. You would see the floodgates. They had those closed, and then everything flooded, so it was really holding the water in after the water's receded. They go to open the floodgates to let all the water out, and the floodgates broke. So rather than the floodgates being wide open and letting the city drain, it just held the water back because they were open, maybe 20 feet instead of 200 feet or whatever those measurements are. So it was a really bad situation. Just left that water in there for even longer, let it do more damage, destroy more homes. So some of those pictures from the Bahamas remind me of what I saw in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I don't think this page is updating for some reason. So, well, we'll end it here, guys. I appreciate everyone stopping by. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll answer it as soon as I can. Also, if you want to get the latest updates, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon. As soon as I post a video with updates, you'll be able to get an email notification, let you know when I'm on, and you can find out the information that you want to know. So again, appreciate everyone stopping by, and if you're in this area, or anywhere, really just stay safe. It's dangerous out there. I'll do another one in the morning. We'll have obviously some